Welcome to the ERW podcast. This is where we'll talk about hot topics, anywhere from leadership to social items. We'll talk about politics, religion, and everything in between. Today I have my host here, Mr. Saba Duachenin, who is an entrepreneur. He is a leadership coach himself, and we just want to have a conversation today to empower some people. Hopefully that when people leave here today or those who are listening online can take something away from it. Also, Saba, welcome to the podcast.
Emmanuel, it's a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
To be here with you today. I had to grab the opportunity to have a chat with you, just because we've known each other for more than 25 years now, and you've had very exemplary leadership in not only business but the community, and our partnership through the years have definitely been a worthwhile one, and so sitting here with you today is a great honor.
Awesome. So, Saba, let's hit the ground running. What do you think we lack in our community as far as moving from one level to the next as compared to other communities? When I mean our community, I mean community of color. What is lacking there that we might need to get to, or whether the hurdles that we need to get over in order to compete competitively?
Gotcha. I think when it comes to community leadership, one of the critical aspects of community leadership, and I've had a lot of conversation analyzing what's lacking, particularly in African leadership and leadership on the continent. And I tell people that there isn't a lack of leaders in Africa. Africa has an abundance of leaders. I think what, on the one hand, is lacking is a lack of integrity.
Okay.
We have leaders, we just don't have integrity. But I think the second portion of the African leadership question is that we exist within a larger geopolitical context.
Okay.
And we live in such a geopolitical structure in which the rest of the world or the West is uplifted as Africa is pressed down.
Okay.
And so it is not a system that is symbiotic, that benefits everyone. That geopolitical system does not exist.
So you're essentially saying that in the geopolitical spectrum, in that atmosphere, African leadership is being suppressed by Western leadership.
Absolutely. I think I think it's Noam Chomsky who say that the owners will not relinquish their space, without a fight. And so after the division of Africa for the wealth of Europe and the Western countries, even though we are far removed from that time, we have neocolonialism, and we are at a place where there's a call for them to step back and we take over our resources. They're not going to do that without a fight, and so that's why we saw a colonialism shift to neocolonialism, which was more like a facade of independence, but there is a control of our resources.
That independence.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is our core message to individuals that are of color that may have interest in their country of origin at this moment, in this political atmosphere that we find ourselves in? What are some of the logical steps or thought process that we should be considering at this moment in time?
I know sometimes the whole geopolitical context in which Africa finds itself in may be a little overwhelming for the average person, and people tend to feel like there is no difference that they can make in that whole context. But I think sometimes context is a matter of little pieces congealing and gaining a certain momentum so that one day there's a watershed moment, right? And so it is very important that everybody think about what positive impact they can make on an individual level
Okay.
in Africa. I think the shifting in Africa is going to take place more from the public sector than from the private sector. I think the over reliance on the public sector will continue to disappoint us. But I think that if you look at America, for example, a lot of America's development was driven by private sector money.
Okay. So what you're saying right now,
And
Sarah,
vision
is
as well.
is individuals who may be working here in the States, maybe doing a 9 to 5 job, they should turn back, not relying on government,
Absolutely.
but relying on themselves making a difference, building a home back there, building a second nest there, and not depending on the government. I suppose because the government itself doesn't have the tools that's required to empower the individual, or it's not the government's responsibility.
So
We need to build.
so I wouldn't take the responsibility away from the government, but I
Okay.
don't think, history have taught us that government don't do a really good job at delivering on these things,
Okay.
right? And so I think if we continue to rely on public sector to deliver for us,
Right.
all by themselves, I think we will continue to be let down. What I do think, and building houses back home, those are good things to do. But I think, like a lot of us are doing, investing in education, investing in new healthcare systems, creating industry. Let's come back to the American experiment. Let's come back to the American, some of the shift that took place from the Carnegies to the Rockefellers. These are people who,
Non-governmental
and the
contributions to society.
absolutely.
All right, so that's what we need.
Which had a sea change across America.
Right.
Now, was it without government? No, government was involved to a certain extent.
Right.
But it was driven primarily by these guys
The
wanting
Rockefellers,
the
the
Rockefellers.
private
yeah.
sector.
It was driven. So we definitely need to think very seriously about how Liberian private sectors can bring about change, in such a way that, or what sort of contribution can we make that will
Individually.
individually or from the private sector that will actually be able to even change infrastructure, and sometimes some of these private sector venture leans into the government as well.
It helps the government out.
A lot.
Yeah.
It helps the government out a lot. Private-public partnership, when it's done right.
Yeah.
It
For
has-
instance, in the U.S. here, the government embrace enterprise.
Yeah.
The government embrace enterprise and give a lot of incentives to private sector businesses.
Yeah.
And I think if the African individual is able to go and create enterprises
Yeah.
in their various countries and partner with the government, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Because guess what? What it does is it increases the employment rate, drops
Yeah.
significantly. So it'll take the private sector to actually hire
Yeah.
a lot of the youth.
Yeah.
And as you know, right now Africa is the youngest continent,
demographic. Yeah.
where you have the
Local.
average individual is 19 years old.
Yeah. And smart African governments will do their best to create environment that foster the growth of businesses.
Yes. Yeah.
Make your ports a little more accessible.
Okay.
Give tax breaks to companies that want to start in your country. Make it easy to set up shop in your country. But the greater or the area that I'm more passionate about is how the individual themselves. Let's forget about private sector, public sector. And I've always said this until quite recently, that I feel like it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what government or political party you find in your country. If a person takes ownership of their own life and their own destiny, there is no greater driver of change than that. You can have a great government, you can be in a great country, you can work with a great company, but if you do not take personal ownership of your destiny, none of that environment does anything for you. And for me, I think that's the bottom line right there.
What role do you think government will play in empowering the young people in Africa?
Again, I'm not very big on government initiatives. I'm very skeptical about governments.
So it'll take the private sector to empower the young people.
I feel like more of us should do more.
Okay.
I feel like more of us should do more. I see a lot of people setting up foundations and working with young people. I think we should continue to do a similar situation. Government can bring about regulations. Government can, make sure to regulate that space so there isn't exploitation in spaces of that nature. But I feel like it should be driven by the public sector. I feel like all of us who have, come from nowhere to somewhere should lend a hand to some organization that's working with young people, or start an organization that works with young people.
And I think an angle to that as well is to start enterprises that will hire young people, like contributors. An institution I started where we build for individuals who live here in the States, build for them in Liberia, and we hope to expand those into Sierra Leone and other places. We do have at least 36 young people that work with the company. So you're alluding that it'll take the private sector to create businesses, African-owned businesses or Liberian-owned businesses, so to speak, as to relinquishing that aspect to the Lebanese, the Indians, the Chinese now going into a place like Liberia, and they are mining the sand, the natural resources, and selling the very sand to Liberians who are building in their own country.
Wow.
I think that's repulsive, and I think the only reason why that's happening is because we don't have the incentive or the opportunity that exists for individuals to tap into those kinds of things. Or what do you think? Do you think there are barriers to entry? Do you think the government is more open to the Chinese to do such a venture as opposed to the Liberians mining their own sand? And I'm just looking at the areas where is the easily reachable resources where you can go on the beach and mine sand.
Absolutely.
But I see the Chinese are doing it.
And if I was to, go down the route of government helping, I feel like some of the very revenue that we get from, our mineral resources, some of these things need to be redirected to provide grants for small Liberian businesses. Grants for them to start business, to grow business, grant for business coaching, and business empowerment that will help, more Liberian people become involved.
Right.
But again, my skepticism for government does not make me to spend a lot of my resources and time thinking about that. What I do think about, however, is that I feel like those Liberians who eyes are open should really think about what are the critical industries in Liberia that we're sitting down and we're letting foreigners exploit those critical industries, and begin to make those industries look sexy for the young people again. Whether it's agriculture to feed ourselves, whether it is mining, because we have so much. I mean, recently I was in Liberia, and even though my intention was not to stay in Liberia right away, but I kept pondering over the question, even if I can't get a big mining contract, how can I tap into the whole logistics system so that I get a little, until I can get a big contract, get a little bite of what these people are taking out of our country. country,
Right.
and use some of the same proceeds from there to educate young Liberians, provide amenities to young Liberians that our government is not providing. How do I turn that around?
Right.
But yeah, so that's my thing. I think more and more of us, why are we not in the mining sector? Why more and more of us are not there?
It's just the foreigners.
There's just
So
a part.
so
We need to go and make that kind of thing sexy
Absolutely.
again. Government policy, for example, that really, when we taxing people, getting diamond in Liberia, you need a license of 50,000 US dollars license. So can we do something where you do $10,000 for Liberians and 50,000 for non-Liberians? You see what I'm saying?
So we see more incentive for foreign investors than the actual Liberians who would like to invest into those areas.
That's possible.
That's possible.
Behind the scene too, we don't know what's really going on the table and all of that kind of stuff. So it's hard to say, but I think in an ideal world, there will be more and more incentives, for more Liberians to become involved, or companies that hire Liberians to be involved. I was in Dubai for New Year's, and talking to my tour guide, and he mentioned to me that in this country we have a minimum that anybody from the Emirates citizen can make, and companies must pay them that amount. My thing is, set those cap on what they can pay, or even if it's not a cap on that, utilize some of the tax that you put on the local companies so that it evens out the money that they must pay Liberians.
Gotcha.
Or taxes, or tax break for how many Liberians you hire. Those type of things become necessary,
Gotcha.
At the end of the day.
Gotcha. We're going to change the topic momentarily, but just before that, let's talk about the Liberian Diaspora organization that just was formed, and they had this conference in Washington. I know the goal is to encourage Liberians to go back home.
Yeah.
I know the topic is not 100% Liberian, but we're on the topic of Liberia as a case study for other African countries or developing countries, so to speak. The Liberian Diaspora organization that came about, mainly the goal is to connect Liberians from here, the U.S., to go back home to Liberia to make impact economically via business, via entrepreneurship. Yeah. Now, the Liberians that are working here, that are working 9 to 5, right? They have to pay bills. They have other expenses to cover. How do we advise them to save enough resources where they can live comfortably here, at the same time use their access to invest back there? Because if you're working here and you make, let's say, 80 grand per year, and how do you manage those resources that will give you an access that you can take back there? How do we speak to the average worker here?
Money is a certain energy that requires a certain mindset. Right. If you don't have the right mindset for money, I tell people money respect those who respect it. Okay. And you have to respect money enough to learn about money, to pay attention to money, and to understand the laws of money. Right. And you have people who live in this country for 30, 40 years, and they're still living paycheck to paycheck. The reason is simple. They have not respected money. They have not understood the laws of money. And the moment, I'll say the first thing that anybody can do is to begin to educate themselves on money. What is money? How do you grow money? How do you multiply money?
How do you grow money?
You see what I'm saying? Yeah, key. How do you grow money? You remember that saying we used to tell people in Liberia,
money doesn't grow on
tree. Not grow on tree, but there's a way to grow money on tree.
Let's talk about that.
Right? So
let's talk about that. So
let's talk about growing money on tree.
Let's say I make 80 grand per year, and I have a mortgage. I have children in college, and I'm pretty much living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
How do you advise a person who is within that atmosphere? Um, how do you advise them to, grow money?
Yeah.
So to speak?
So I think the first law of money is to reduce your income should always be higher than your expenditure.
Okay.
Live below not in your means, below your means.
Okay.
First law of money, you have to live below your means,
Right.
so that the extra $5 becomes a savings, and you can always take that $5 and put it down.
So investment would be what you would advise that every single household should embrace.
Well, I mean, and my thing is, and yeah, investment takes different forms, right? Whether someone wants to invest into whether somebody wants to invest into their retirement, or whether somebody wants to, whether someone wants to reinvest in their retirement, or whether they want to go ahead and become a millionaire.
Okay.
There's two different things. I was talking to someone the last time, and I was, thinking about my life and thinking about, I read in 1 year, I read 2 books of different founders. Steve Jobs from Apple, and I also read Elon Musk's book about Elon Musk's life.
Okay.
And it shifted a little bit of how I saw success and how I saw my life, right? I was thinking about, hey, I need a success for me was amongst other things, because success is not a simple thing to just define, but among other things, to be able to have enough money for my life to be comfortable.
Okay.
When I read these guys' books, now I'm seeing that these guys were thinking about building systems that change the way humanity lives.
Right.
That's a totally different
they're-
paradigm.
So they're serving a need.
Yeah, totally different
serving
paradigm.
a
They're
need.
serving a need. So
Yeah.
when you ask me the question about whether everyone should engage themselves in an investment, I wouldn't necessarily. And so investment can take all kinds of different forms. So whether you put money down to send your child to school,
Right.
or whether it's money for my end of life, my retirement,
Right.
or whether it's for me to become a millionaire and then be on yachts all over the place.
Okay.
Investment takes different. Investment goals are different, right? But yes. So technically, because. And even when you invest in your own school, you invest in your own self. So yeah, everybody should be investing.
Gotcha.
And by the way, that $5 that I was talking about, that's what you do with that $5.
So you invest the $5, and I think.
But even before you invest, yeah, go ahead.
Just to add to that, if you make 80 grand per year and you have just $5 left over, I think besides investing that $5, you should find a side hustle.
Absolutely. There you go.
All right. There's
There
a
you go.
lot of side hustles.
Yeah.
That you can do because your expenses are capped already. You
Yeah.
have that 5%.
Yeah.
If you adapt a side hustle,
Yeah.
you can take that side hustle
Yeah.
and find an investment vehicle like Marcus by Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
Right now, Marcus is about 3.4% that grows, and you have you have a buffer, a zero buffer where it doesn't go down.
Yeah.
The stock market goes down, but it's growing at that interest rate. That's very safe.
Yeah.
So that side hustle, whether it is doing a cleaning business or doing some sort of delivery, Uber, whatever it is, take that extra time and make that extra income.
Yeah.
Once that extra
huge.
income come in,
That's huge.
you isolate that 100%
Yeah.
towards investment and let it grow. And one thing I would like to let our audience know that if you have a home, you do not have an asset. I'm sorry to burst a bubble.
Yeah.
Your home is your biggest liability. It's not an asset. However, if you have a home that is an extra home where you have Airbnb going, or you have a rental property that's bringing in resources.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
So if you make 80 grand or 50 grand and you're capped and you have just 5% that's left, for this investment vehicle, which we will advise you guys on, there's several of them that we'll discuss tonight. Get a side hustle.
Side hustle is so key, man.
Yes,
so
sir.
key. I tell people I didn't cross the Atlantic Ocean to come to the U.S. to come sleep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to come sleep. I mean, my regular day, my life turned around when I got a side hustle.
There you go.
I was sleeping. This was in New York about 20 years ago. I was sleeping 4 hours a day during the week, and I caught up, with my sleep later on.
Right.
I still have, now that my life has changed over the years, and income level is totally different. I still wake up at 4 o'clock and go to bed at 10 o'clock. My typical day.
And you're a 7-figure earner.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
But still, and I tell people, you don't relax because you become successful.
No, what got you there will take you there.
Absolutely. In fact, sometimes then every level has a new devil.
Absolutely.
Every level has, so certain time when you get to a certain place, you even work harder.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes you relax based on what your goals are.
Yeah.
And if you haven't crossed that finish line, you better be putting in the hustle. But just back to your before you come in, let me talk about that. That side hustle thing would change your life.
Absolutely.
Anybody sitting down and complaining and saying that they do not have enough money, but you got all of this time on your hands, you better start to get a side hustle. If it's 2 days a week. So I was going paycheck to paycheck in New York, man. It was crazy. Yeah. I was a manager at a security account, and but still New York is expensive, paycheck to paycheck. And Uber was 3-4 years in at the time. Mm-hmm. I'm like, listen, I'm gonna have to drive Uber.
I'm driving the Uber.
You know what? And there was all kinds of obstacles before me. Oh, you haven't driven a lot in the city before, so that fear was there. You don't even have a car. You know. Hey, but when you're hungry, once you have the desire, the impetus, and you let that drive, you will find a way.
Absolutely.
You'll find a way.
And the key also is that you have that extra income from your side hustle.
Yeah.
That again, I must reiterate that that income has to go straight towards investment.
Absolutely.
That money has to grow while you're asleep. Now, you take those resources and try to invest it back home. Yeah. So, just to bring this in a nutshell, we're talking about those who are working from paycheck to paycheck, that have barely anything to invest. Yeah. We're asking them to invest into a side hustle and take all of the resources from that side hustle, not to buy a new pair of shoes, not to do anything else, but to invest that into vehicles such as markets, such as other high yield savings accounts. Yeah. To start with the bare minimum, and proceeds from those accounts, they can essentially invest into any venture that may appear.
Absolutely, absolutely. And since we don't have enough time, I'll give a few titles that people can, or authors that people can search up. Dave Ramsey is really good financial freedom. He gives a roadmap from you being a slave to your bills to becoming financially free. So Sue Ullman's also kind of like lay a few things out. Kiyosaki, for example.
Kiyosaki.
They're just really key steps to financial freedom. One is living below your means and taking the extra. What do you do with the extra? You put the extra in your savings, but before you put the extra in the savings, you focus on your debt. People who run away from debt will never get out of debt. Debt does not go away. If you run away from debt, you will continue to go, to be in debt. Attack your debt. When you attack your debt, you build a savings. When you build a savings, get that emergency funds, then you go ahead and invest. Now, in order to be able to do some of this when your money is still small and you ain't got enough, what do? Just like Manny saying, get that side hustle. Because that little extra money, when I started my side hustle, my goal was to only get $500 per week.
Okay.
$500 per week. I mean, I exceeded the $500 per week, and that shifted. Can you imagine what $500 per week would do to you? That's $2,000 per month. It was a sea change in my life. I cleared all my bills, started to build my savings, and then vehicles started going to investment vehicle. So if you read those books, by those authors, you begin to understand what it would take to untangle you from the rat race that we're in America.
So the more you read, the more you learn, the more you earn.
Because you respect money, money will respect you.
Absolutely.
One of the key respect for money is understanding money.
Absolutely. Well, it boils
Okay.
down to mindset, and we will be entertaining some questions from our live audience here. So whenever you're ready, shoot. Any questions?
Yeah, so you spoke about respecting money, right?
Yeah.
And investing money and doing all your side hustles, right?
Yeah.
So what happens if you have done all of those stuff and then you find yourself at the bottom line whenever you try to move up and you always just coming back? What do you do?
So I think if a person educates himself about money, it's a formula. I tell you that for truth. As surely as 1 + 1 is 2, if you put the right digits there, you will get the right result. It's a formula. You will never do 1 + 1 and get 6. And so if you understand money and you understand the formula of money and you follow the formula of money, your way is only up. It can be done. And if something's wrong, it's probably you are kind of shortcutting on 1 or 2 of those things. You probably need to talk to a financial coach, or a financial advisor.
Absolutely. And to piggyback on that question, whenever you find yourself getting your side hustle, you have that extra 10% of income, and you find yourself back in the same struggle, it's time to do a mindset shift. But at this point in time, it's not the resource anymore, it's the mindset shift that you have to implement. You have to cut back on certain things, and you have to focus on investment, because wherever focus goes, energy flows.
That mindset is key, man, because I can guarantee you that person is probably say more money, more problems. Hey, I got more money now. Let me go ahead and buy that extra bag. So something in the law is not right. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So speaking about investment, right? I'm going to use myself as an example, right? So let's say you invested your funds, right, in the stock market and whatever that you invested in, and that stock didn't really materialize, and you lost a lot of money. So now you also an investor or trying to make yourself better, you gotta think to yourself about, to take my money and invest it again because I just had extra dollar money that just went down the drain.
Yeah.
You understand?
Good question.
So then where do you start from? Do you go back
Let me take that question. So you invested in a certain vehicle,
Yes.
and the market tanked,
Yes.
and your vehicle went with those resources. That doesn't change the fact that the stock market grows at least 10% every year since 1920. So it could be that your strategy may be changed. What I would advise for any new investor: do not invest in stocks. Invest in ETFs, exchange traded funds. Invest in the fortune in the S&P 500. You have the best 500 companies across the U.S. that will always be profitable. Even if 10 of them go belly up, you're going to have the rest of them profitable. So do not get a particular stock because your friend buying the stock and it's going up and you jump on the bandwagon. I think a strategy should be first thing before you invest. Even you can invest $5 a week. That goes automatically into your investment account.
Yeah, I think that's key that Manny's talking about. Other things to consider too when you invest in is your risk tolerance. How much risk can you tolerate? Diversification is also a key thing to kind of consider when you're investing, to ensure that you are also not, putting all your eggs in one basket, like our old parable used to say. It becomes very key, and that's why this Ramsey is very, very a stickler about making sure that you don't just get up and run to investment as your first option. This Ramsey would say your first option is to pay your debt. Once you pay your debt, then, and that's, I love the snowball method. Really cool, check it out, how to pay. If you got multiple debts, how to pay that debt out really quickly. Because once you start on that snowball method trajectory, and once all your debt paid, the momentum from that snowball trajectory will just start to put money in your savings. Always have your, your emergency funds. If you pay your debt, have emergency fund, you're not less financially anxious, you have a better risk tolerance. You also now have a better credit. right? So better, credit, which you can leverage as well. And so those things are key. And so now you're taking into account your diversification and stuff like that. Yeah.
So
Definitely.
that side hustle we're talking about, and we're gonna change the segment in a minute, where I'm gonna have you ask me some hot questions.
Absolutely.
So the side hustle, if you get it in and you have debt, you should pay the debt first before you start to
Absolutely.
invest.
So
that's key.
The longer that debt stay there, the worse it is for you.
Okay.
Yeah, the longer it stay, the worse.
Yeah,
it
so if you have paycheck to paycheck and you have debt, you get that side hustle and focus on paying that debt off, and then you can start focusing on investing so your money works for you, so to speak.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say he made two key points. Portfolio diversification is very key in the investment world.
Yeah.
Also for those of us that have credit cards.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we really need to look at, because the bulk of the expenditure come from the credit cards we have, because the balance always is high.
Yeah.
Because the balance compounds
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
So you have to look at that
Yeah.
and make sure that that balance is manageable. Of course, the credit card will tell you pay the minimum,
Yeah.
because that's how they make their money. That's how the banks make their money, and so forth.
Yeah.
So the key is portfolio diversification,
Yeah.
risk tolerance.
Yeah.
And for those who are very friendly with credit cards,
Yeah.
look at those credit cards, because that's where you get killed.
Yeah. And credit card is key, man. Your credit card limit don't mean you got that money.
Yes.
That's the trick. That's the trick I had to learn. Like, I got like high limit credit cards. I don't put a lot of money on it, because that's just money that it takes you back.
You have to spend less than 10% of that credit balance.
Yeah.
Key.
Yes,
You have to spend less percent. I'd rather spend cash.
And so those are the respecting money.
You have to respect money.
When you understand money, then those are some of the knowledge. People should not let money is key. Money. Let me tell you, what the Bible said: money answereth all things.
Not some things.
Woo!
Yes, sir.
Man,
Yes, sir.
money answereth that scripture just made me want to dance. Poverty is a curse, but money
And it's a
answereth.
mindset.
Yeah, it's a curse in the mindset.
It's a
But
mindset.
money answereth all things. If you will get out of poverty, you have to educate
mind
yourself
yourself.
about money. Anybody who don't want to be poor again should read at least 12 books about money. And it will
Absolutely.
change their life, especially
sir.
if you follow what the book says.
Yes, sir.
I'm very passionate about this particular
Yes, sir.
thing, because,
Yes, sir.
man, listen, poverty, many I know, we've been poor before. I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
I'm from a middle class family, but my father was the kind of guy who was like, you got to earn your own.
Absolutely.
So I have come from places where I was hungry 2-3 days without food. We walked to school.
Yeah.
So there were times when it was so tough. And so when we came out of that space, and I look back on it, and I'm like, yeah, poverty is a curse.
It is a curse. And it is a mindset. It is a mindset. If you take all the money in the world and give it to people who have poor mindset, and poverty is not about lack of money.
Yeah.
It's a mindset.
Big time.
So if you take all the money in the world and give it to poverty mindset, or people who thrive, I wouldn't say people who are poor. I don't want to use that word. We should not use that word. But folks who have the poverty mindset, all of those resources will come back in the pocket of the rich because of mindset.
Because money will go to the people who
They will
respect it.
money. Absolutely.
But money will shun you when you disrespect it.
Absolutely.
But if you respect it, it will find its way to you. We can get everybody here $1 million. In 2 years' time, the people who respect money, they come
It'll
right back.
come right back to it. Because one of the things in our community is whenever a person has money, it's time to buy the expensive car. It's time to buy the $1,000 shoes and other expensive things, instead of taking those resources and investing it, so that while you're asleep, the money is working for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, Manny. So Tom, I'm going to ask you some questions.
Yes, sir. Let's go. And, we're gonna be wrapping this up.
Okay.
But I'll sit in the hot seat. Let's go.
I'll hit you with three quick questions.
Let's go.
I've known you for a long time, and one of the key things that you and I have worked together for is community
Development.
community development, community impact. We worked together in the Second Chance Gospel Musical Convention. You had the choir raise money through music and give back to the community through college scholarship and other sorts of drives. What drove you to do that?
Wow. What drove me to do that is, first of all, I felt that I had a second chance at life. I had a devastating accident, and I literally feel that I was revived for a reason.
Yeah.
And when I survived the accident, which was very improbable, I decided to dedicate my life to community service and to be of service and to be a faucet where I can perpetually pour water out to feed instead of being a cup.
Yeah.
Right? So ever since the accident, when I survived it, I decided to be a person of value first, and then I can pour into anyone who come in my space. I ensure that anyone who come in my space, I'm able to pour into you.
Yeah.
And I decided to be a lender instead of a borrower. And those are the individuals that God will use as a vessel for His resources. If you have a mindset of giving, God is going to use you to pass His resources through you as a liaison, as a tunnel to bless His people.
Absolutely.
So that's what inspired me. I felt that I had a second lease on life, and I felt that to make any impact in this world, you have to be a person who gives instead of a person who takes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
With the second lease on life, you're like, man, this must worth something, and I need to give back as much as I can.
Absolutely.
If you were to advise a young African brother or sister who've just moved to the U.S. for the first time about 2 or 3 things that they need to do to really thrive and succeed in the U.S., what would be your top 3 advice to a young? Because I remember when I met you in New York, I had just come as well, and just based on my background, I was just working with young people in that same space. And just looking back to that time, it makes me ask this question: what would be your advice to a young immigrant, young African, and this can apply to young people in general, but specifically to that 3 things that you should keep your eyes on if you would thrive in America?
Well, 3 things that I would advise any young immigrant from Africa or from any part of the world is come here. Number 1, choose what impact you would like to make here. Choose that impact and stick to it.
Yeah.
Find a person who has done well in that space and emulate them to the T.
Yeah.
And you aim for the moon, right? You might just end up being one of the stars.
Absolutely.
Right. So I would say focus on one thing. If it's entrepreneurship, focus on it. Find an entrepreneur, follow him. Learn, because success leaves clues.
Absolutely.
And as you get those resources in, again, it comes back to the same topic where take those resources and reinvest them.
Yeah.
While you're asleep, let your money work for you. I mean, if nobody take anything away from this segment, make sure that every dime that enters your hand never leaves your life. Every penny that enters your hand should never leave your life. Make sure you invest it. Even if you're buying clothes, make sure the reason why you're buying that clothes is to maybe keep you warm, which is going to make you healthy, or that's going to allow you to present yourself before business owners or some sort of venture. And it shouldn't be just because it's fashion and it costs $10,000 or it costs $1,000. I see most of our young people finding their identity in what they wear. And they're spending $1,000 for a pair of shoes. I mean, it's amazing, and it puzzles me. As a young person, if your thing is not about, I would like to see my money work for me while I sleep, then there's something wrong there. So that those are my three things.
Something wrong with the
Yeah,
paradigm.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think those are three gems, indeed. My last question to you, Manny, is that you're very gracious to do this interview with me and invite me into your house to do this. This is a very difficult weekend for you.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm here also to stand by you and support you as we celebrate the passing of your mom, who was a mom to us and to the entire community that you serve.
Right.
She left a big legacy. If you were to tell me the biggest lesson, one or two biggest lessons you learned from your mom that you would like to pass on to other people, what would that be?
Wow, that's deep. So the biggest lesson that I learned from my mother is to be resilient. Be resilient. If you have a goal that you want to achieve, there's going to be a lot of barriers that's going to come your way.
Yeah.
Those barriers are there to test you. You need to find a way to either go over them, go around them.
Yeah.
Do not allow those barriers to stop whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
I have faced so many different barriers in life, but as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
my goal was to get to 7 figures
Yeah.
and even 8 figures, and that goal still remain constant.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to stay focused on it. So being resilient speaks to the fact that anything that comes your way, you don't consider it a barrier, you consider it a challenge, and you have to overcome that. If you want to take an exam and you fail the first time, go back and do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Do it 3 times,
Yeah.
do it 4 times. So most of what happens in our community is people take one exam and fail,
Yeah.
and they just quit.
Yeah.
Or go for the second time and just quit.
Yeah.
So I'll advise that, what I took away,
You've never failed until you quit.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Winners never quit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and quitters never win. So be resilient and stay focused.
Oh, yeah, and now we'll transition to our question.
Okay,
Yes.
let's go. Let's
Okay,
go.
yes.
I have a question. We talked about integrity in the beginning.
Yes.
And so how can, and we know there's a lot of African countries where the youth are very scared to even speak up. So how can our youth lead with integrity in those difficult environments? And how can our youth, how can young people also hold leaders accountable respectfully and effectively?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a deep one. So again, the African continent has the youngest population. The average age is 19, and with social media now, the mindset of the youth in Africa is changing. It's not before. They're speaking up now. You can do a video, and your voice could be as loud as anything. And you don't have to be on the continent to let your voice heard. So the youth in Africa, I think their voices can be heard using social media.
Yeah. That's a really weighty question because especially when you say respectfully and all of that kind of thing. I think there are stages to escalation, right? And you must start, what Jesus Christ say, if your brother offends you, go to your brother. And if he listens to you, you won a brother over. And if he doesn't listen to you, take another person with you. So escalation has its stage, right? And I think the youth must continue to find different ways to articulate themselves to the government so that their cries can be heard. I feel like an effective way to do it, and I was just in Nairobi, Kenya, 3 times this year, last year, sorry. And the youth over there kept, having demonstrations. And one of the things I have mentioned to them was I felt like it will be a good thing, and we had done this in Liberia at one time, call a national youth convention. 3 days of deliberation, break them down into various committees so that they can discuss and articulate the issues that the youth that is heartfelt to the youth, and get youth-led suggestions, right? It's ideal if government can do this, but again, with my own low expectations for government, I feel like youth themselves can do it, whether it is the church or whether it's non-religious youth organizations having, these forums in which they can discuss. So there's power in numbers. And I think if they have this convention, discuss, get the best people amongst them who can really write down and discuss what they feel the needs are and how they've identified the solution for going forward as, and come up with clear proposals that can be presented to government, it's a good starting point. Now, let's go beyond that. All governments will not listen to you. We must realize, and I will end on this point, since we are being timed here, change, it's not always things you can talk your way through. I go back to one of my favorite political philosophers, Noam Chomsky. The owners of power would not always give it away without a fight. So sometimes there will have to be a place where we get to where there is no respect, where we will have to fight. We will have to fight. We will have to stand up. America, and I'm not inciting anything. I'm just, looking at the patterns from history. America that we live in today, people had to shed their blood in this country. People had to speak their mind in such a way that they were assassinated in this country. But if they were afraid to really speak truth to power, this country we would not have enjoyed the freedoms that we've enjoyed. So there are just different ways to escalate these type of things. Yeah.
Got it. So just to wrap that up from the question to the answer is utilize social media.
Yeah.
Utilize social media. Your voice will be as loud as possible. Besides those conferences, utilize social media. If you have anything to say towards government as a youth, as a young person, utilize social media. You're going to get back.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Guys, it was great having a segment with you. Let's do it again. The next time we're going to talk about